Welcome to Train Freediving. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the 3 worst pieces of advice that I've gotten in my freediving and what you can do about it if you've gotten them too. So the first piece of bad advice that I got when I was starting my freediving, actually I got it for the first 4 years of my freediving, is that your contractions will never come later, and all you need to do is learn to tolerate them better. Now, this is something that I was told in my diving when I was struggling with having both early contractions in depth and early contractions in the pool. My training partners, my buddies, and my instructors were all telling me that's completely normal, it's completely fine, and most likely that's just where you get your contractions. All you need to do is do CO2 tables, expose yourself to contractions, and learn to have more contractions without panicking and without freaking out. Now, this led me down a vicious cycle of doing intensely hard CO2 training, pushing myself way outside my comfort zone every single session, tolerating as many contractions as I possibly could, and the only result that I had was that I started to become fed up of holding my breath, I started to become stressed out, and all my deep dives and all my max attempts felt horrible. Now, the reality is, your urge to breathe and your contractions can be significantly delayed, and the strength of them, or the intensity of your urge to breathe, can also be significantly reduced. You just have to train correctly. You should formulate your training in a way that allows you to have minimum amount of contractions during your training sessions. By doing this systematically and over time, you're going to drastically increase the comfort that you feel while you're holding your breath. Your contractions are going to be significantly delayed, and the intensity of your urge to breathe is going to be significantly reduced. Now, to give you a little personal story about myself, for the first 4 years of my freediving, where I was pushing myself as hard as possible, in dynamic apnea, my contractions were starting at around 40 meters, and when they started, they were extremely strong, extremely powerful. Now, this intense urge to breathe at 40 meters happened to me during my first dynamic during my IDA 2 course, and then almost 4 years later, when I set a personal best of 115 meters, my urge to breathe was still starting really strong at 40 meters. Now, after another 3 years of changing the way I train, training with less intensity, less urge to breathe, and making sure I'm as comfortable as possible during all of my training sessions, last week, for the first time ever, I achieved the goal that I set myself of doing a 100-meter dynamic with no contractions. And just yesterday, well, the day before filming this, I was able to repeat that dive again by doing a 100-meter with no contractions at all. Now, the second bad piece of advice that I've gotten and that I hear a lot of people getting is that you have to use blank technique. Now, what I mean by that is, a lot of times if you look at divers who all come from the same training club or who have been working with the same freediving coach or instructor, a lot of them dive in exactly the same way. They're being told that the only way to equalize is like this, and the only way to fin is like this. Now, in my opinion, this is completely incorrect, and it could be holding a lot of divers back from achieving their potential or from having like ultimate comfort and ultimate ease in their diving. Every single technique can be pretty drastically modified and optimized to each individual. For a few years I've been coaching an athlete, and when she came to me at first, she told me that she wanted to learn the mouth fill with a nose slip. She was a diver who had been equalizing down to 50 meters with a mask, no mouth fill, doing hands-free. But someone told her that, hey, if you want to go deeper, the only way to do that safely and effectively is to switch to nose slip and use the mouth fill. There was a pull between that advice and what the diver wanted to do, because really speaking to her, she didn't want to take off the mask and she didn't want to do a mouth fill. And after a few training cycles together, we experimented with mouth fill, hands free with the mask, mouth fill pinching the nose with the mask, and all sorts of other variations of mouth fill. And then one day we just realized that, you know what? We don't have to do that. Instead, we could just work on optimizing and improving her no mouth fill, hands free with a mask equalization technique. And although this isn't something that's widely accepted in freediving, it just seemed to be what was optimal to her. After a proper training cycle, where we did proper training exercises that targeted this technique, so no mouth fill with a mask, hands-free, her equalization drastically improved. This diver had also been struggling with having contractions on the way down for pretty much as long as they could remember. Now, after we made this change, the contractions during her dives completely disappeared. So not just on the way down, but even during the ascent, she wasn't having contractions anymore. Now this just shows that the widely accepted equalization technique that everyone's told to do, mouth fill with a nose clip, isn't necessarily the best one for everyone. By focusing on no mouth fill, hands free with a mask, not only did we improve the diver's equalization, we also improved the comfort and quality of many other aspects of her diving as well. Now the final piece of bad advice. In my opinion, this is the single most horrible, worst advice that you could possibly get in freediving. It's something that I've gotten thousands of times and I hear it every single day. Now this horrible, horrible advice is when someone looks you in the face and tells you, just relax. It really bothers me when I hear this because just relaxing is useless advice. It's impossible to actually do, and I don't even really know what it means. Diver says, when I'm finning, my shoulders feel tense, and someone says, just relax. Maybe the diver is swallowing their mouth fill on the way down, or they're squeezing at depth, and their buddies or their coaches or their instructors say, just relax. Maybe the diver is just early turning or coming up early in dynamic or static just because they panic and they don't feel like pushing themselves. And what does someone tell you? Just relax. Just like in the boxing example, if you're having problems in your diving, they cannot be solved by just relaxing. You cannot just flip a switch that's called the relaxation switch and then suddenly your problem's going to go away. To fix these issues, you need to do specific freedive training exercises which are built and tailored to targeting your specific freediving problems. With practice, by developing the skills to handle the problems that you're having, your confidence is going to go up, your ability to not make mistakes is going to increase, and then you're going to feel more relaxed. Being relaxed during a dive is a product of good quality training which prevents you from making mistakes. It's not the other way around. You cannot just flip a relaxation switch and then suddenly your mistakes disappear. My advice to you is that if someone tells you all you need to do is just relax, just assume that they have no idea what they're talking about. They actually don't know how to solve the problem that you're dealing with, and then you should either take it upon yourself to find the answer or talk to someone else who actually has a good solution to solving your problems, and then put in the training to build your confidence, build your skill set, and then you're actually going to feel relaxed in your diving. So there you have it. Those are 3 super common, terrible pieces of advice. I've personally gotten those 3 things told to me multiple times in the last 6.5, 7 years of my freediving, and I hear it all the time. These types of advice aren't going to help you. Remember, it is possible to delay your urge to breathe if you train correctly and make your diving significantly more comfortable. There is no one-size-fits-all technique for every single diver. There will be some modifications that have to be made to each individual depending on their anatomy, their mindset, their equipment choice, and the type of diving they're interested in. And most importantly, there is no magical relaxation switch that is going to fix all your problems. So beware of these advice. Take into consideration what you can actually do about it if you're getting this advice, and then try to optimize your training in the best way possible so that you're diving in a way that's suited to you, super comfortable, and building your confidence so that you know that you're capable of doing all the dives that you want to do.